Brett Perigo, tonight's second place finisher. Plenty of fans here, Brett, and a solid second place finish.
Yeah, I got to shout out the Turn 2 Terribles over there. They're all a bunch of good guys to hang out with, talk to. I really like them.
How are you doing tonight, man?
Hey, I'm talking here. You know who you're talking to? Macho Man! I'm on my way to Monday Night Raw.
The second one.
Your choice.
It's a trap.
I feel like it is. I feel like he's setting up fights in the front stretch is what he's trying to do.
Speedway. We got Devin Gordon with us
at Keen Motorsports Shop here with Kyle Keen.
Sitting here with Sean Keen. We're going to talk a little bit about racing history.
Yep. May 13th, 2024. This is Turn 2 Terribles. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We got a great show for you guys tonight. We got rookie 358 driver Thomas Senseney on the pod, and we also will talk about Lincoln at World of Outlaw show and what we didn't get in this week. We'll also preview the week ahead. As always, make sure you're putting your comments and questions in the chat. And as always, we like to thank Gutshall's Automotive for bringing you this episode of Turn 2 Terribles. Guys, how you guys doing this weekend?
Man, good. I want to apologize to Flow Racing and High Limit for stealing all their viewers for tonight. That they're all here with us. This thing keeps blurring out, so I want to apologize for them for stealing all their viewership. So
I just want to enjoy the fact that Jay-Z's camera knew to point out the winner of Saturday night's High Limit race just by focusing him out and focusing on those Brent Marks wings. How's it going, guys?
Good. So, yeah, we'll talk about all that. But first, what we're going to bring on, he's a rookie 358 driver, first season out here. We're going to bring him on. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Thomas Senseney. Tom, how are you?
All right. Thanks, Jimmy. You got the name right that second time.
I tripped over it at first, but.
No, doing well. And I appreciate you guys having me on. So with all of my tenured experience in a sprint car, I'm sure you'll take a lot of value from tonight's conversation. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah, man. I'm glad you're here. Got to meet you here recently and talk to you the other week at Williams Grove a little bit. And I told you then, I was like, hey, let's get on the show one day, right? And I was like, man, you know what? And it clicked today. I'm like, man, let's reach out. So I do want to find out, again, your 358 career is literally getting started. But tell me a little bit about your background, your family's racing history, if any, your racing history, or did you jump into a 358 a few weeks back and said, I'm going to try to be a race car driver? Tell us a little bit about your history.
Yeah, no, thanks for asking. So, going back, really my kind of passion for racing started with my uncle Dave Senseney, who unfortunately he's no longer with us. He had passed December of 2022, which really kind of rekindled my thought process on, getting back into a race car. Before that, age 15, started racing at Trailways in the limited stocks when Dodge Neons were the king of four-cylinder racing back there. So I spent probably 4 or 5 years doing that. I don't know if I still am on the top 10 wins list there. I think since I stopped racing for 10 years after, I might have gotten nudged off, but we had a really good run at it. It was fun. Just met a lot of great people. Some of them are people that are helping me today on the car. So yeah, it was really my Uncle Dave that got me into it. He built a car. I don't know if you guys know Sam Gallagher from the Thunder car days and late models. He was neighbors with my uncle. So when he first built the car, he didn't have anyone to drive it. So of course, Sam's running late models and Thunder cars. And my neighbor, or his neighbor Dave, asked him to run a 4-cylinder every once in a while. And he did, but of course he wasn't going to do that full time. So when I turned 15, going on 16, I think I begged my uncle every weekend to let me get behind the wheel of the car. And that kind of started the itch from that standpoint. So spent a number of years racing that. Got into street stock once or twice. We had one built for one of the last seasons I was going to race. And then, of course, that was when I shipped off to college. And I was actually competing as a decathlete at the time. I was a sprinter. Ended up picking up a javelin and a shot put one day at practice to mess around. And the track coach said, "You know what, son, I don't think you're a full-time sprinter. I think you're going to do the decathlon." So I spent a lot of years after that turning left, just on a different track at that point. And so yeah, that's kind of how I got started. And, from age 21, 22 up until my ripe rookie reentry at 31 into a micro sprint, it's just been kind of sitting on the sidelines and other things, my career. I had a side gig with some musical things going on. I'm a musician as well. That took a little bit of time away from Friday and Saturday nights. So the one thing I realized when my uncle had passed was that, that gap, that period of time that I think I was my happiness was behind the wheel of a race car. And I had the opportunity last year from a good family friend to get in a micro sprint. So we ran about 5 races on the tail end of the season. And like every good decision happens, me and a good buddy and someone I had a lot of thanks to, Kyle Reinhardt, we were drinking a beer in my garage, staring at the micro. And I said, like anything else, I get competitive. I'm like, well, if we're going to go back out next year, I'm going to put a new car together. I'm going to put some money into this. And he just looked at me as we're drinking probably a Coors Banquet, for the deal he's got going on, and said, why don't you just build a 358? Because the cost on the micro side's gotten a little ridiculous as well. I saw that, Jimmy. But yeah, I made the decision, made the plunge, and that's how I ended up in a 358. We rolled the funds from the micro over and haven't looked back since. The only problem, and I brought a prop for this, Jeremy, was this has kind of been the start to my 358 career. So when Mother Nature decides to help us out, I'm excited to get some more laps in and keep getting faster.
So this is super interesting, and you're also kind of working with Kyle still too. Like, how do you know Kyle? How did that relationship come about?
So that's an interesting one. And again, I owe him a ton of credit for helping me get out. I mean, you can't just get into even having a little bit. And when I say a little bit, 5 or 6 races in a micro sprint and then jump to 358. I had no clue what I was doing with setup and, prepping the car and weekly maintenance. It's just a whole different caliber thing. So he's really been my kind of Mr. Miyagi or sensei to the sprint car world. And anytime I can, I try to, number one, repay the favor and help him out when I can. And then number 2, it's just been a great experience kind of shadowing him and his team. A lot of my guys have been coming to the races, when Kyle's running, just to watch how they operate and how smooth everything runs. And, unfortunately, the other week we had to swap quite a bit of parts out on Kyle's car at the Grove. So I told him not to do that again, even though I appreciated the learning experience. He should probably knock that off. But yeah, we just became friends over the last couple of years. And it was actually through our wives, who both ride horses, that we got connected at a dinner one night and then realized the mutual connection we had for a love of cars. And there's a group of us now that kind of hang out every weekend. And it's just, it's been fun just running into that circle and us all becoming really good friends and helping each other out.
So like that's all, like super interesting to me because, we hear these stories about these, on this show. We get a lot of 358 guys, young guys. Their dads raced. They did the quarter midgets, they did the 600s, they got into the full size car, and they had some experience. Very few of them went into a full size car without anything, like building it, fixing it, setting it up, some sort of mentorship. And you have that, but in a totally different way, and not a lot of it. Like, yeah, Kyle's obviously a huge help, but you've been friends for a couple years. You went from, well, I micro sprint, I don't know what I'm doing there, to I don't know what I'm doing here either, but you can help me a little, maybe. Like, that's a wild story. And you're going to the races as a friend, but also like, I'm going to learn how to do shit in a panic here. Like, that is wild to me that you can show up, full size car, you have the help, but it's very, very inexperienced help, yourself included, behind the wheel, let alone your crew when you get junked in a B main and try to fix it. Right. So like, that's a wild story to me. So a whole 2 races under your belt.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe 1.5. We could put it that way. So, and of course, the second, I had no idea. I haven't been tracking the 358 class, honestly, before we decided to dive into it. 41 cars, I think, that second race at Lincoln for the Weldon. I was excited to see how healthy the car count was. But then I also know as a rookie, that makes it that much more challenging to actually get to the show. But we're learning. Like I said, I have some really good guys who they're learning with me, at this point. And there's some funny stories maybe I'll get into later on how I met, 1 or 2 of the guys that really have helped me out a lot on the car. So yeah, it's just funny how the universe comes together. And from working, growing up, I always turned a wrench. Dad and I used to restore classic cars, and I'm no stranger to a small block Chevy, but for, you get in the world of sprint car racing, there's just so much that goes into it every week. And then every minute detail and every turn, and everything you put into the car has such a big impact. So if you don't have a baseline, which I was fortunate enough to kind of steal some best ofs from more than, Kyle and a few others, it gave me confidence to go out there and actually put the car into the turn, week 1. And we actually ended up, putting some lap times down that we were pretty happy with. So yeah, it was exciting, and I couldn't ask for better people in my circle, I guess, that have just helped us out. So.
It's funny you mentioned that at Lincoln with the 41 cars, and you're like, whoa, I didn't really do a lot of research. I go to BAPS for that test session, and I'm like, oh, there's this red 25, pretty car, white letters in the sunset. I'm like, I don't know who this is. I stay fairly like educated on who's running around here and who's doing what. And I see your name on the wing cap there, and I'm like, I have no idea who the hell this is. Yeah. And I'm like, I guess I'll find out. And then there you are, right? Like a matter of a month, I'm like, oh shit, now you're here. So like, man, you really just sort of like burst into the scene in a way. And yeah, 2 whole races, but it's time you show up with a clean race car. You made your good laps that first week. I saw you going through 1 and 2, and you had the car had a good attitude. It didn't look like you were underdriving. It didn't look like you were overdriving it. Like, did you just feel comfortable right away after a couple test sessions to go out at Lincoln and say, let's go. Let's just hammer down and see what happens. Like,
and it was funny, we went to BAPS for that test session, and I love what they put up there. It's very organized. But one of the things I struggle with is, as a rookie, you get it takes you about 2 or 3 laps, right, to really get into it. But at that point, it feels like you're coming off the track, at the practices. So we made the decision that, well, why don't we go to Lincoln after 1 practice session and just opt to the rear, hang back, get comfortable. And it's a similar way to how I started the micro career. I went around once or twice and then got a little courage in me. And I think the first heat race, we ended up getting 1 or 2 cars off the heat. And then the B main, Kyle still makes fun of me for this. I said, well, should I opt to the rear? I feel like I'm holding a clean line. Last thing I want to do is rip somebody else's stuff up. If there's one thing I care about, it's being respectful to all the other drivers. So I didn't want to go out there week 1 and say, in the B main, we're supposed to start out of 11. What if you step on it the wrong way and turn 1 and 2 and take somebody else's stuff out? I wouldn't want someone else doing that to me. So I've always respected that over the years. But ended up, I think we picked 4 cars off in the B main too, once we got moving. And we were probably 1 spot out of a transfer for making that feature. But it was a blessing in disguise, because we actually found an issue with the car that we probably wouldn't have seen if we tried to rush from the B to get everything ready for the feature. So it was good we didn't make the show, but we got those laps in, which for me right now is the valuable part, just seat time. It's a lot of seat time.
I imagine you go home and even cleaning the car, tearing it apart, maintenance, like all that's brand new. So where is your baseline to know what to do and how to do that?
Well, twofold. Like I said, I have some good friends that have been around it. It's actually funny. I didn't know when I moved to this area. I moved back to Littlestown. I was, worked down in the Baltimore area for a while for what I do in finance and Hunt Valley, those areas. Moved back to Littlestown and didn't know I'd be right between two neighbors that are giant sprint car fans. So my one neighbor, Dave, I don't know if he's watching now, but I'll have to tell him, I'm giving him a shout out. He helped on a team with Andy Baird, I believe, their team for years. And he was a good sounding board for just, what's required every week as far as maintenance. He gave me, tire 101, starting from the basics all the way up. So I owe him a lot of thanks for helping me understand the car and just some basic things to get started. And of course, knowing Kyle and having him come over for one or two sessions, the routine maintenance and kind of show me what to do and being on the other end of the annoying text that I probably send him every week where he shakes his head. Hey, does this look right? It's just, I got blessed to have some really good people that are willing to help. And I think it's just really that racing family. I remember that when I used to race the 4 cylinders and limited stocks, and even the micros, the short stint I did there. I was just impressed. Week 2, of course, Jeremy, I think you were standing there where, the car bounced off of turn 2 and right up into us. And in my mind, they're looking at me going like this, that the axle's bent. And I thought we were just putting the trailer. Before I got out of the car, Kyle and one of his guys were up there. Jim Travis, Denny Peebles, and their crew were beside us. Jim's my motor guy as well, who does a phenomenal job, really woke up the machine that we're working with. He was assessing the damage. Before I got out of the car, there were bolts flying off the car. My guys are standing there just wide-eyed the same way with me, and my job was stand by the toolbox and hand them the tools. So Cody Hartlob was another one that came up. He was my neighbor growing up. So it's just cool to see that racing family, and that's something that hasn't changed from 10 years ago when I used to race, of how willing people are to help. So my mind's a sponge right now. I know how to turn a wrench, but set up on a sprint car is something so crucial that I will take any knowledge or any help I can get from those who are experienced at this point.
And it's funny watching that accident that night, like you're a rookie and it's hard enough as it is sometimes, whether it's your ability or you're around other cars that, don't have a lot of experience, things can happen quickly, and you're going to learn from it, but you don't want to tear things up.
Yeah.
The accidents you've been a part of so far that night were both really veteran guys that made mistakes. Chris Wall bounced off the inside wall. You end up in his lap and you know where to go. The start of that B main, 2 cars on the front row are veteran guys get together and create, a parking lot on the front stretch. That sucks. Like I've seen so many rookies go out and either they do it to themselves or they get caught up in, other rookies or young guys' mistakes at the back of those fields, especially early in a year. We see all kinds of people make mistakes, but at the back of those fields, you can see that. So, it's just shit luck, to be honest with you, but at least there's been some time to recover, rebuild, get it up and running. So, and I just like one more here and, we'll get Chris and Jimmy here, like as equipment, right? I hear a lot of teams, budget obviously matters, sponsorship matters, but you built this over the winter with nothing to this. What kind of inventory have you built? What kind of program do you have at this point? And do you have a strategy? Here's my plan. Or are you kind of going season to season, meaning spring, rainy season, and then summer? Is that kind of how you're doing it?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's kind of a little bit of both. We were fortunate enough. You guys are probably familiar with Zane Rudisil, who ran 410s for quite a number of years. I actually ended up one of his cars, and Johnny's late brother, Bobby, my uncle Dave, who used to race, was really tight. Used to help Bobby back in the Thunder Car days. So Johnny was really helpful in helping us put a piece together and put a package together with enough spares where we felt like if we stayed out of trouble or we knew there's going to be some rookie incidents. So we got enough spares to hopefully cover that this year, that we should be good for the full season. But to your point, it's kind of season to season at this point. And when I decided to do it, I really didn't have, a large sponsorship base because, this guy who's, raced 4 cylinders and a few races in a micro sprint, he's going to come ask us to sponsor his 358 car. We kind of see how it goes, but I was a firm believer in if you build it, they will come. and I know we'll probably have some shout outs later for sponsors, but I mean, I didn't even have a car put together yet. And I was getting messages like, for example, DRS Roofing, one of my good buddies, Shannon Weaver, we used to race limited stocks together, back at Trailways in my early days, and then 15 to age 20. And he was one of the first people that reached out and said, hey, we want to, help make this happen. So people like that, and I'm sure I'll give thanks to a bunch here more closer to the end of the podcast that have been really crucial coming on board. That's helped kind of pad our inventory or quality materials, we'll call it, to get through the season.
Last note, not really a question, but Jimmy and Chris, do you know the name Sam Gallagher? Are you familiar with that name?
Heard the name.
Heard it.
So main hit in like the prime for me watching Sam Gallagher, he was one of the few cars in the Thunder car division running a Mustang, and he would like drive the piss out of it for like fourth every week because those stupid ass Camaro bodies would beat him every week. And like he got it done and he did a good job and he'd get a win here and there. But man, like he made that Mustang work better, that generation Mustang better than anybody I've seen in that division when at peak Thunder car days. Like he was very competitive in that scene. But man, like Watson and Nat Tuckey and those guys just whoop his ass. And those freaking, and I don't know enough about them, but I know that those were the cars back in the day. But he was one of the few that ran a Mustang. So a little side note there. Jimmy, Chris, what do you got?
It was fun watching him. Just as a side note, it was fun watching him race growing up. And actually, to kind of owe some credit to him, he gave me my first helmet and racing suit. So back then, when I was 15, the racing suit was a little big for me. But I think I'm growing into it nowadays. Sorry, Sam. But he actually was instrumental in helping me get started with some safety gear and some pointers. And I think I remember that first race in a Dodge Neon at like 15. My uncle, back then they had a full field of cars. I think they had probably 30 cars show up a week. And my uncle gave me the lecture and said, okay, hang to the back, get your laps in. And I think that night we went from like 21st or 24th to like 3rd. And that's when the itch kind of really started from there on.
I would imagine so, having that kind of success.
Yeah. Oh,
hey, you talked before about music was kind of taking your Friday and Saturdays away. Tell us a little bit more about that, your music career a little bit. Like, what did you play, genre, instrument, all that type of stuff.
Yeah. So interesting story how I got started in that is I actually had a sports injury in college. And, like every middle school boy has a guitar, I feel like, or, a lot of people go through that phase. So I had a guitar for years, but never really learned how to play it. Had some downtime in college, so I started strumming the thing. And then that led to, after I graduated, doing some open mic nights, trying to find something to fill that void, like that hobby. And, fast forward a year or two, I played some shows for 105.7 The X, 107.7, like down in Frederick, and ended up doing a short stint, never made it to TV, but on America's Got Talent. So I think the Evening Sun did a piece on it years ago, and it was cool. But you started getting into that phase where I got to meet some really cool people. I got to open for like Parmalee, Craig Campbell, Big and Rich, like some really cool acts, like with the music scene. But it started to feel like another job instead of something I enjoyed. So I kind of slowed down, and then just now I'll randomly pick and choose where I play, at a bar or a winery or, an event. So it was cool in your 20s. It's always cool to like start doing something like that. It just got to the point where it didn't feel fun anymore. So now I just kind of do it at my pace, which is enjoyable. And of course, if you book a gig at a bar or restaurant, guess what? It's a Friday or Saturday night, and that takes away some of your options for kind of put me out in my 20s from not getting behind the wheel. Don't regret it though. It was fun.
That's wild. That's awesome. Chris?
Yeah. So my question, Tom, so you're looking at first season, going for a full season. Is it all going to be Lincoln mostly? Is that what you said?
Yeah, we're going to try to run the full season at Lincoln. And of course, like everybody else, we've got some weddings and some things on the calendar that'll conflict with 1 or 2 dates, which is tough looking now that we've already rained out quite a few times. But we're probably going to visit the Grove later in the season. We've got a really strong motor for Lincoln. but just don't want to test it yet early in the career, at those RPMs at Williams Grove, in those long straightaways. So might make an appearance or two there later. BAPS, when we're back on the schedule, will definitely be there. And then still on the fence, I don't think we're going to make the big diamond show. Again, I feel like we need a little bit more time at Lincoln to get comfortable. But yeah, Lincoln full year, occasional trip to the Grove, and then BAPS when we're on the schedule is the plan.
Perfect. So what would you think, looking back, say we get to October, how would you define as a good season for you?
I think it's constant forward progress. It'd be a big goal to say, go after a rookie of the year, something like that. When you got guys like Aiden Hare, I think that won a second race there, the second race, and has quite a tenured history of recent racing experience. But I'm kind of a student of the game, just like I was with sports. I'll rewatch video time after time, trying to understand how the car reacts. So I'm trying to put in the time when I can, because my business keeps me a little busy as well. But just trying to, again, be a student of the game, study, research, pick everybody's brain, try to accelerate that learning curve. And I think if we can start running, get inside the top 10, or maybe a top 5 by the end of the season. I know that's maybe not podium type goals, but just continual development, continual forward progress would be the name of the game this year.
So you kind of talked about the 41 car field at the Sterner. It's 1,500 to win this weekend at Lincoln again, and there might be 30 plus cars this weekend as well. Have you looked at that far ahead?
Yeah. So the goal, as it's been since the beginning of the year, is just make the feature and then also try to roll the car across the line on lap 25 here, at the end. So that's really baby step number 1, or hurdle 1 we need to cross. But yeah, other than that, it'd be great just to get into the show. And then again, when you're driving in the field, I feel like it's kind of trial by fire, right? You start to catch on pretty quickly, start to read other people and see how they react. And racing's always that constant chess game, right? Is you've got to, especially in a sprint car, you've got to plan kind of your entry, well before you're at the turn. And you've also got to plan on where the guy in front of you, where he's been running or where you think he's going to do, or is he going to try to, you showed your nose underneath of them in turn 3. Is he going to try to go down and block this turn? So it's fun for me just to kind of play that mental chess. And I think getting into the feature, just like some of the lap time in the B main, you start to learn that. And again, there's no better way to learn than under pressure in those circumstances.
Yeah. We talked to a lot of young guys, and really that seat time is everything. No matter where you end up that night, the more laps you can run, the better it is for you early in a full-size car. If you had to define your driving style, whether you compare it to another driver's, or do you even have a clue yet in a full-size car? Have you ever given that kind of thought?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So probably other drivers, I've got some favorites maybe of all time from like when I was a teenager, watching cars at Lincoln. But I don't know. I'd love to get confident enough to be one of the wall busters, like a Monteith or a Hodnett, or maybe the elder Raymer in his prime. But no, I like I can be fairly aggressive at times. I haven't gotten there yet in the course of the 358, but one of the things I've noticed as a rookie is some people out there know you're a rookie, so they might try to pinch you or kind of see how you react in certain circumstances. I found that out in week 2. But really, it's staying aggressive but being respectful is kind of the balance I want to find. Again, like I said earlier, last thing I want to do is go out there and tear somebody else's equipment up. Especially now that, when you get into it, and I know some of the fans know all the work that's involved in the car week to week. It's already enough work to wash the car and to flog it down and to do all the weekly maintenance. Last thing you want to be doing is rebuilding front axles and, getting the checkbook out to go get a new set of wings and some other things. So, my goal this year is to stay aggressive. I'm a very competitive person, but I also realize that I'm very green and in that circumstance. Yeah.
And Jimmy's going to get the sponsor shout outs here in a couple of minutes, but you kind of talked about your crew a little bit and where you met one, but you kind of mentioned there's some stories there. So tell us a little bit about the crew and kind of their history and how you found all those guys.
Yeah. So I talked a little bit about Dave, my neighbor, who really helped early on, kind of get me up to speed. The funnier story, I think, was the first time we fired the car up. people always said, when you have a sprint car, people kind of show up out of nowhere, or you make a lot of friends. But we finally got the motor back from Jim Travis's shop on like a Saturday, and our goal was to have it in the car and fire it that following Sunday. So we did that, and of course, rookie starting the car, we had to do it about 3 times until I figured out where to actually lean the car out to keep it at idle. So a car pulls into my driveway, and I'm sitting there. I thought it might have been one of my buddies based on the model of the car. And this guy gets out, and I'm like, I don't know this guy. I'm like, where did he come from? I'm like, he's got to be here because it's either there's someone that's going to complain about a car being too loud. We live in the country, but I'm like, I hope somebody's here on good terms. Here is one of the neighbors I haven't met yet, Stalby. His name's Mike. So shout out to Mike. He's actually been a blessing this year. He's been kind of my main guy now. He's learning it with me. I mean, he lives across the fence row, so he can walk over. So him and I have been taking time learning. He's been coming along when we're shadowing, teams like Reinhardt's and stuff, taking notes. He's, I got to pick one. He's Stalby too. He's got his iPad at the track every night with his notes on it. Our lap time's up. So he's just been a blessing for help this year, because I think if you ask a lot of teams, it's really hard to find guys that show up every week. A lot of people want to show up at the track, but getting someone that wants to show up Sunday morning, help wash the car, and throughout the week with maintenance is really the key. So just again, wanted to thank Mike for being a part of that, and him and I have become really good buddies now over the whole ordeal. So I'm glad he woke up from his nap in his sunroom. I won't share the whole story, but I'm glad he woke up that day and ventured over, because it's been a great fit. So.
You mentioned the music and sort of feeling like, it got to feel like a second job, and you said, hey, I need to take a step back. So what you talked about, you have a business to run. What is your day to day, your 9 to 5, as they say?
Yeah, it's 9 to 5. Well, I think when you're a small business owner, it's kind of a 24/7.
5 to 9. It's 5 a.m.
Always
to 9
on the
p.m.
clock.
Yeah. But no, I actually own a wealth management practice. I'm a financial advisor, investment manager. And I won't get into too much detail because the SEC has really strict advertising rules, and my compliance team wouldn't be too happy with me talking to it. But that does consume, that's really where my passion lies. Number one, I'm able to help people in a really significant way through that career, where I kind of entered that career with a company that was a little bit more sales focused, we'll call it, and a little bit sketchy. So I really get fulfillment out of what I do every day. But it does take up a lot of hours. The cool part about that is I'm kind of doing this all day, talking to people, doing planning work. We're doing a lot of review meetings, and that's kind of where I thrive, is I just love relationships. And it's kind of nice every once in a while, after you had 6 hours of meetings, to come home and just turn a wrench, put some music on or put Flow on out on the garage TV, and then just kind of decompress. So it's actually acted as my therapy, a part of it, and I really don't mind the work, because it's been so long since I really got to turn a wrench and work on cars. That's something my dad and I did growing up. So it just kind of brings me right back to that sweet spot in life where, we were all having a good time, and cars were kind of an integral part of the family lifestyle and relationship.
So if you get to the point in the racing deal, whether you're good, bad, or indifferent, and it starts to feel like a second job, is that going to be one of them deals where, like, hey, I don't have to be doing this. I don't like that competitive nature, right? Whether that's the music, that's the racing, and we all are that way. I played sports growing up. It's very competitive. If I do something, I don't want to do it halfway. That's just who we are as competitive people. So how do you think you'll be able to balance that, whether it's going real shitty or going really good? Both of those can be like, hey, I want to put more into this. I want to put more time into this. Sacrifice, we all have to find that balance. So have you thought about that as far as the racing in the future, this season, next season, beyond, good or bad? Have you thought about that balance?
Yeah, it's interesting, because I've always seen racing a little differently, right? So, and I think maybe that competitive spirit is probably what's driving it, that maybe it's a little bit more passionate about. And just to kind of give you an example, when I stopped racing, unless it was a big show or my buddies were all getting together to go to a race, I honestly could not go to the races, because I wanted to be in a car that bad. Like that's kind of how that passion was. So I essentially almost went cold turkey from the racing world, because, I'd go to a sprint car race and I got to be out there. I got to be in one. It's just, it's one of those things that just, you find that thing that brings you that joy and like that kind of commitment, competitive spirit. And now in my, I'm an old rookie, I'm 32. But a lot of the sports, I've had some injuries that have kept me from, playing pickup basketball and some other things that I've really enjoyed where you get that kind of competitive itch. Racing really fills that void for me. And it's definitely more of a passion. I like to say I'm still passionate about music and what I did there and what I will still do, just, on my cadence, on my time. Racing's one of those things I don't think I'll ever get tired. It'd probably have to be health, kids, down the road or family things that would probably cause me to get out of it. But, life happens. And sometimes you got to reprioritize, but I'd like to keep this a priority for a while, while I've got my health. And, I saw that with my uncle with, life's so fragile. You can go to the doctor's office one day and, they're telling you that you've got 4 months, left to go. So every day you wake up, you got to enjoy it. And the financial advisor to me says, enjoy it within your means and responsibly. So kind of to your question earlier, Jeremy, is what's the plans for the year? Well, there is a strict budget. I can't help myself. But I think we've got enough parts and pieces and we pray that the motor stays together since we are only a one motor operation. So yeah, long answer to your question. But,
No, that's great. And this is you're in a, like, your background, the whole story, how you got here, where you're at now is just totally unique than who we've talked to, right? We've talked to a lot of the young guys that we've talked to are young guys. Like, they've raced forever, but they're young by age. We haven't met too many, like Kyle Keene. He's a good example probably of a guy who never really raced anything. And he has a job. He went through college. Like, he's an adult, has a life, and kind of was like, hey, I want to get back into racing in a big car. So he would be one of probably our exception that we've ever talked to, sort of in that way. So I'm not going to ask my weekly question because you don't know who you like racing around or not yet, because it's 2 whole races. So Chris has his weekly question to new guys we've never had on, and then we'll get Jimmy and get you out of here, man.
All right. Thanks.
My question is there a race out there that you would want to win more than any other race?
Ooh, that's a good question. Honestly, just because I haven't been following this series as closely as I have, I probably couldn't pinpoint anyone. I thought the Weldon Sterner was a race I had gone back to for a number of years. The one that just taking place a couple weeks ago. That one, just because I know the family as well through a few connections, and just being able to win that one year would be really, really cool to see. And just because I know the people that are involved and the work that goes into that and what it's for, definitely would be a future goal. Missed it this year. You have to get in the show to do that. But yeah, that would be a big one. And then, of course, I know the summer series is a thing with the 358s too. Any one of the summer series races in the coming years would be cool to snag a win. But I like to be, just like when we race, like the limited stock days, I like to be, competitive at every track we go to. Although I'd like to say I'd love the Master Lincoln, which, 1 and 2, I'm still working on. 3 and 4, I think I've got that down pretty good after the first 2 weeks. It'd be fun just to pick up a win at multiple tracks, maybe a Lincoln and a BAPS or, just one. But I know some people go their whole career without a win. So it's a steep goal, but one, it would be a neat one to achieve.
Jimmy?
So before we get into your sponsors and everything, I have a question. So going from like 4 cylinders limited stocks to like open wheel micros and 358s, is there something, like whether it's a technique or whatever, that you thought was going to work and you're like, wow, absolutely not? Or vice versa. Maybe you thought, no way this is going to work. And then you try it and it's like, oh, I didn't think that would stick.
Yeah. So I'm trying not to offend a lot of people on this podcast with this next statement, but honestly, and looking at both classes in their different respective, right? Of course you don't have the speed when you're racing 4 cylinders, but tractoring a front wheel drive car is a skill in itself. It does not, you can't point it. You can't, you could do, it's a different type of skill. So you can't even relate those two. But with the micro, probably offend more people on this, now making the comment that the micro I was running, I had no left front brake set up. It was a 20-year-old chassis, a great chassis. I'm sure you guys know who Barry Lavelsberger is. I owe him a lot of thanks for getting me squared away with a setup and in a car that he had built probably 20 years prior. He helped me get that thing into shape and get going. But with no power steering, no front left brake, driving the 358 was like a Cadillac that first week. And I'm a little out of shape and getting old. So there was a week at Path Valley. I think it was my second race. We actually went from 12th to 4th in the first 8 to 10 laps. And then my forearms were about spent. So I went from 4th back to about 12th in the same amount of time. So I appreciate power steering in a car. And I think the bigger wheelbase it's a whole different animal. Of course, you got more power, you're carrying more speed. But I always joked with Dad growing up, we had a small pond that was like a perfect little circle track. And I used to shave all the rear tires off of the ATV because I would just drift laps around the pond. And I know that sounds stupid and funny, but that throttle control of being able to hang the rear out and, racing dirt bikes too when I was younger. And I kind of drove a little bit of everything. We didn't get into that, but that power transfer is all the same. And that feel that you get in your butt and in your right foot, I think having a little bit of that experience helps you out, but it's definitely doesn't drive the same. It's just, I think with every driver, you got to be able to feel the car and what it's telling you. And hopefully I think I've gotten some signals at this point, but it's hard to tell that after 2 weeks in the 358 for sure. Yeah.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on. This was a great interview. You're an awesome guy. Let us know who you want to thank, sponsors, crew members, everybody that helps you get to the track every weekend.
Yeah, it's a long list, but I'll make it quick, I promise.
Yeah,
So
take as long as you want.
I don't know where the high limit's at right now, but we want to get people, jumping.
Nah, don't worry about it.
But like I mentioned him earlier, DRS Roofing, my good buddy Shannon Weaver, he was a big, he gave me kind of that initial catalyst and that help to get us started on the track. And with him coming on board early, it gave me some hope that okay, maybe there's more people out there that want to jump on and be part of this thing. Of course, True Sense Wealth Management, that's my personal business. So of course there's going to be a little signage on there from that. And again, through that career and through my partners and great clients there, I've got the luxury of, having a comfortable enough, spot in life where we can kind of go after and try to do something like this responsibly, financially. Got to throw that in there for any of my clients listening. Darren Dickensheets with Remax of Hanover. It's actually my cousin, so I might be a little biased in this, but really, we sold our home through him. We bought our little farmette through him, and my wife's very happy with that. She can keep the four-legged friends at home. Really, probably one of the most personal guys you'll meet, and he also does his own short form content. Explore My Town Hanover. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. It's pretty cool, the videos he does. Retro Inc., good buddy Josh Fisher. Him and I grew up kind of running dirt bikes around together. He owns a fab and restoration shop. He did a lot of the paint work, painted the tail tanks and fab work to help us get out there. So thank him. Altoff Property Management. He's been a longtime family friend. So we're glad that Don's on board as well. And he's been hanging around, the shop and at the races and been supportive of our team. So they're really the company sponsors. And then other than that, thank Dave and Mike, my neighbors. I told you their stories, coming in. Of course, Reinhardt, Kyle's been a crucial part to getting us started. And I saw the shout out to Darren. I think he's probably worked with half of Hanover at this point. So he's a great guy. But my guys, Justin, Eric, Kyle, other Kyle, he'll know what I'm talking about. My dad and Sherry, they've kind of helped with the lettering and getting the car together. And my dad still comes out and helps turn some wrenches on the car at this point. Brad and Tammy, who kind of hooked me up with the micro ride that we rolled into this 358 operation. The Rudisils, like I said earlier, for really packaging me together a good piece of equipment to start. I didn't think I'd have some of the components that I have on there today, and being able to go out and compete and be competitive in the class. Chad, the brothers Emig, there's a bunch of people. So from having a beer in the backyard and a beer in the garage, deciding to do this, I'm just so glad that I got that group of people around me, and we can go out and have some fun every weekend. So
awesome. Well, we thank you for joining us. We wish you the best of luck here, the rest of this season and beyond. And thank you again for joining us.
Thank you
Thanks,
guys
man.
for having me.
Have
It's
a great
been fun.
one. Take care. See you soon.
See you guys.
Take care. That was a fun interview. I didn't, we didn't know too much about him, and then he's really interesting guy. Well, a lot of stuff going on there, and just really cool to see just how it, hear him tell the story about how it, progressed into this where it is right now. Just like he said, drinking a beer in his garage to now here he is racing 358s is pretty wild.
And it's funny, like we talked over Facebook, about some pictures here and there, and that's how I even know the name or what it was or who introduced ourselves that way. We're at the Sterner a couple weeks ago. He walks up and, hey, Jeremy, how's it going? He shakes my hand, and I'm like, hey, like, how's it going? And then I'm like, oh shit. I had literally had no idea what he looked like. Could have been anybody, could have been any human. So he walked up and introduced me. Obviously that not everybody would do that. I think that's his background in working with the public, working in sort of a, the wealth management kind of field and just being able to talk to people.
Yeah.
And then last weekend at Williams Grove, I know Kyle Reinhardt a little bit from just working with Addicted to Dirt and Rich and his crew, the PR group. And I asked Kyle, I was like, hey, would I be able to go up on a trailer for the feature? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. This guy says hi to me. And I'm like, what? How? It's Tom. I'm like, what is it? What world are we in right now? So, no, super cool to get to know him here the last couple of weeks and, watching the car, but then just get to know him a little bit. So, that was fun. Again, I've said to you guys, and I'll say to the probably 1.5 people watching, my favorite interviews are the guys we don't know.
Yeah.
I know nothing about. I just know the car's red. It's number 25. He's ran twice. He could have won 3,000 races somewhere in some other part of the country, and I would have had no clue.
Right.
Those are the most fun for me, getting to know and understand and what their background is and what their goals are in this. So that was a ton of fun.
And the thing I think that's really promising with him is that he seems successful in everything he does. So I don't think it's going to take him long to figure out 358s, and where you will see him be also successful. He's got the right mindset on how to run his team. He had success racing before. He's had success with music, with his, in his personal, professional life. Just so I'm sure. Just he's a smart guy. He'll figure it out, and I'm sure it's a name that everybody will know probably by the end of the season. So awesome. Thanks, Tom, again for joining us. Let's get into the week that was. Obviously, a lot of rain. I appreciate his prop usage, by the way. That was pretty cool. But
you don't open an umbrella. Listen, you don't open an umbrella in a house. Who does that?
That's true. Well, someone who's confident that he's not going to have any bad luck. So
right.
So yeah, we'll as we're going on here, it looks like we're going to be getting into the A main of High Limits, so we'll kind of like keep you updated there. I know a lot of people are watching it, but let's get into World of Outlaws at Lincoln. That was the only race that got in, unfortunately, this past weekend. David Gravel leads all 35 laps, with Gio Scelzi and Carson Macedo on the podium. Anthony Macri 4th, Donnie Schatz 5th. Danny Dietrich with a tough night, but still hard charger plus 15 got up into the top 10. You fellers were there. Tell us what you guys saw and how your night went.
Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it was good being back at the track. I mean, anytime the Outlaws are in town, it's going to be one of those fast cars going to be up front. You had to be fast early in time trials and get through the heat, get to the dash. Cody Hartlaub did a good job of doing that.
Yeah.
But if you didn't do that, if you're Danny Dietrich, if you're Freddie Raymer, some of those other guys that didn't get through time trials so well, tough night. Not a lot of, I wouldn't say there was not a lot of passing. It was definitely a lot of battles come feature time. That mid pack, probably 7th through 12th, was all kind of clumped together in one mistake. And so a fun night, but I mean, David Gravel's probably the favorite to win the championship for a reason. So,
yeah,
agree completely. It kind of what we talked about here. I mean, honestly, we couldn't have been as close as it ended up being, as Gravel being a favorite, Macri being the hope that we had. And Macri has outlaw speed and was right there with the right guys. He was right there with Macedo and Buddy and David, and being very, very competitive. Troy did exactly what I kind of thought Troy would do. He's a top 10 speed car and did his job. It was a battle. It was a hard fought race. I think the top was so dominant after they put the water down that, where I was standing in turn 2, it was just car after car after car running the same line for a while. Just, there was no difference. They were all kind of the same speed. They were fast. Air was a thing until they got the lap traffic, and it sort of closed up a little, but I don't think Gravel was ever really under any pressure to make it feel like he was like stressing out about that race. He had it under control from lap 1. Kind of like we talked about here last week. It really wasn't nothing that happened surprised me or was like, wow, I can't believe that happened. I mean, we look at some of the Devin and you look at Matt Campbell was in the A, and Cody was my biggest surprise of the night. Obviously it didn't end well, but a hell of a job by Cody on his time trial lap. And he wasn't out super early. It's not like he went out in the first 5 cars and laid that lap down. He had to work for it, and he did a great job and did a great job in his heat, all things considered. I mean, there was some passing in his heats, and the cream rose to the top, and he held his own and did a great job. So, again, shame he got a race car torn up, but it went exactly how we kind of talked about. Time trial sets you up for the night. Danny can run 24th to 9th, but if he starts in the top 10, what does he have? Again, it's the same thing we talked about. Can you time trial? No matter when you go out. David Gravel went out in the second half, last third, and goes quick time. You got to be able to do that. If you're going to win an outlaw race, no matter where you pull, you need to go put yourself in position in time trials, or you're going to have to do what happened to Danny there. Or whatever. I don't care when you go out. You got to put that speed out there from lap 1.
During the feature, scary moment with Bill Baylog. Really got out of it in turn 4 and went flying. And I guess caught on fire, and then I guess Devin Borden got out of his car, helped pull him out. It was a scary moment. At least me, I was watching it on Dirt Vision, and they put the camera away immediately, and then the stands, which looked packed, by the way, really good crowd on hand. It was silent, and then they all stood up and looked, and you didn't know what was going on. So so glad to hear that he was okay. And cool to hear that Devin helped, and that the whole safety team there, did their job and their part. What did you guys see from that?
Yeah, I mean, by the time I saw it, I saw him flipping, caught the end of his flip and landed, and like you said, everyone stopped, and all of a sudden it was probably a 10, 20-second delay, and you just kind of hear like the gas. Everyone started yelling, and then Borden was out of the car, and that's when I guess it was on fire, at least a little bit. I couldn't see any of that from where I was, so.
Yeah, I didn't see any of it. I really didn't know. I was in turn 1 and 2, like in the middle of 1 and 2, and it was all 4. I couldn't see anything. So I heard about it from it. So good on Devin. Honestly, though, most guys would do that. I think most of the guys that in that field understand it. They live it. So
for sure,
good on Devin for sure.
Yeah. Cody Hartlob's deal, which actually involved Devin and I guess Freddie. I didn't see anything that happened there. Did you guys see anything from that?
I saw the aftermath.
I saw the replay. I saw a replay of it from someone on Cody's team was filming the feature and saw the replay of it. I'm not going to place blame on the Freddie Devin deal because I know what I heard, and I've heard it completely 100% both directions, that it was Freddie, that it was Devin. Either way, they effed around and found out, and Cody was an innocent bystander and absolutely destroyed a race car because of it. I don't care who screwed up. I honestly don't. But figure it out. There's no need for whatever happened there. Racing hard, I get it maybe, but man, Cody didn't deserve to have what happened to him, and he flipped hard, by the way. Cody flipped really, really hard. So I'm glad he was okay. The car was not. They obviously worked all damn night to get it ready for the next day for an event at an elementary school for the very next day. Probably, again, nobody wanted to see this weekend get rained out, but probably a blessing in disguise because, they who knows what happens rushing a car together. But, shout out to their team. But, yeah, Cody wrecked hard, and it sucks. Sucks to have that torn up because someone else, one of those two doing what they did, whatever happened there. So
especially when he had such a good night going, you're in the dash. He fell back a little bit in the feature to kind of put him in that position, unfortunately. But just, great. You hope that doesn't take away from the overall good night that he had. You know what I mean? Nobody really expected, we expected him to have some speed because we know Cody and the talent that he has, and he has a good team around him. But, I don't think anybody expected him to be really in the dash. So hopefully he's not hanging his head too much and just, can take the positives from that, all that led up to that night, and know that he could compete for an outlaw win. If you get in the dash, you could compete for a win. So good on him, and just an unfortunate end to his night.
I want to give a quick thing. Billy Dietrich's fight to get through that heat race. First thing, gets in a little issue there. Has a little bit of good fortune. I think Brandon Raymer breaks, but fought and clawed getting into the show. They finally get something to fall their way. To at least get into the feature. Was 37 cars there. Got in the feature, so shout out to Billy and that gang.
Yeah, him and Ryan Newton got together.
Ryan Newton, yeah, that was a thing that happened.
Yeah, I don't know. I may have to reach out to Ryan, because what I saw in the start of that heat, I don't know. I may have to get his view of it, because when I saw Ryan dive in there under Billy, he obviously thought he was going to have room, didn't, or he was being ultra aggressive. It felt like to me he was being ultra aggressive, because I saw an incident off turn 4, either the very start of that race or the lap 1, starting lap 2, coming off 4. And Ryan got pinched up in the wall really hard by Billy, and I don't think Billy knew he was there. I don't think it was intentional the way that went, but maybe Ryan was just driving a little bit upset and drove over his head a little bit, and he wiped himself out too. It's not like he didn't hurt himself doing it. I wanted to ask him about it, because when I saw it happen right in front of me, I was like, this felt like retaliation a little bit, just the way it looked, the way it went down, what I saw in lap 1. So I don't know if Ryan thought he got done dirty a little bit, maybe, and was being ultra aggressive there. But yeah, I mean, glad Billy was able to get going and recover and put it in the show. So that's pretty cool.
Good runs by Chase Dietz. 10th place finish, ran up in the top 10 all night. It's good showing from him. We kind of, I don't want to say expected it, but we knew that this is what he can, he's another guy that if he can just get himself into that dash, he might be able to compete for a win, especially at a place like Lincoln. Obviously, Troy, awesome job, top 10. Tyler Ross had a great run all night as well. And Lucas Wolf, actually, I know he finished 18th, fell back, but he started P11. He looked decent all night, just kind of continuing that kind of forward momentum that he's had so far this season that we haven't seen in the past couple seasons from. Anybody else stuck out to you?
No, I think, again, the people we expected, Dominic Selzy, I thought was really good in that feature. Better than I expected, probably. He's definitely one to get by Carson. Buddy Kofoid was as good as I expected. He lost a couple spots there at the end. Driving really hard. He's really good at Lincoln. Put in a lot of laps there the last couple of years. Sheldon with a pretty solid night all around. Like we talked about, Sheldon could go quick time, win a dash, and be in contention for a win, or he could be in a C main there. So,
yep.
Really probably a good night for him. Logan Schuhart +3. We expect Logan, he knows how to get around that place. I think it's kind of what we talked about. He just hasn't shown that like consistent top end speed yet this year. But when we look through this lineup in this field, it was very top dominant at the top of that by the Outlaws. But if we look at the top 10, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 in the top 10, 5?
4. I think it was 6-4 split.
What is it? 6-4? Yeah, 6-4 split.
Yep.
So, it's about what we kind of talked about. I don't know if our contingent is as ready to compete for the wins as we've been with that lack of veteran presence, but it's got to be that Danny Freddie Macri, and Macri shouldn't be considered a veteran, but we are. So we do consider him a veteran, so we want more for that. But this is about how I kind of thought this might go, to be honest. So no other surprises for me.
Yeah. A main for high limit is about to push off. And speaking of Buddy Kofoid, he's starting on the pole. He's going to be tough to beat there.
By the way, did you see the Durst dice roll? Or I'm sorry, not the dice roll. The spin. Did you see the spin just a little bit ago?
Oh, yeah.
All the zeros?
Double 0 and then 0.
How? We've been waiting for zeros or somebody to hit the ace in the hole deal from the heat. So we not only get a winner from the heat to get the pole of the dash, then we have three different guys spin a zero. Like really,
Yeah.
why? It's wild. That spin has been wild this year. Like multiple ties, like crazy. Anyway,
Just another thing that High Limit does very well.
Yeah.
Let's go and look at other High Limit results from this past week. Friday night, they were at 34 Raceway. Brad Sweet gets another win. James McFadden gets around him. It was like the last lap, 2 laps maybe. It was towards the end as they got into lap traffic. It was a track that was very bottom dominant, and Brad Sweet and Brent Marks, I think, were like the only guys that were up top really making it work. And just, it wasn't like it was rubber down. It was just so much moisture down there that everybody was down there kind of single lane, and a couple guys tried to make it work up top, and Brad Sweet made it work. Pretty interesting race right at the line. Yeah, that's right. It was right at the line. It was like half a car length.
Yeah, Brad Sweet said he kind of screwed around 3 and 4, a little bit in 3 and 4, and kind of pussyfooted around there and let McFadden get to him at the line and almost lost the race. Like it almost lost him the race. He said he was a little too conservative up there that last lap.
So yeah, heartbreaker for McFadden, but I mean, ran well. It was just one of those deals where you're in lap traffic and it's really hard to pass basically one lane, and you're better off being second than you are first. So, and again, another great run by Brent Marks, P3, staying in that points hunt right there because it's going to be tough. I think it's really starting to see the cream rise. The contenders really start to rise up. You got Brent, got Brad Sweet. Corey Day's been kind of in there. Tyler Courtney's been in there, but I think it might end up coming down to Brent Marks and Brad Sweet the way it's been going. Any other thoughts from this race on Friday night?
It was fun. I can't complain. I love that the conspiracy theorists, haters were out in full force about it. I love it. Just keep that spotlight on High Limit and keep hating on it because it keeps putting on good shows. I don't care if Brad wins them all. It wasn't like it was given to him or it was easy and it didn't walk away with it. So as we see on the next event here,
Right.
It can happen any night. It can go the other direction. So Brad's going to take him when he gets them. That's for sure. He's not going to apologize for winning. But yeah, I mean, Brent hasn't finished outside the top 10 in a race this year with High Limit. That's why he's leading the country with a 5.55 average finish, at least going into this weekend, which probably improves. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it's going to be Brad Sweet. It's going to be Tyler Courtney. It's going to be Brent Marks. Going to kind of compete when it gets in the 40-day race, 40, 50 of the year. They're going to be your guys.
Yep.
Right.
I agree.
And as we switch over, it's starting. We talked about it last week. Brad Sweet's doing Brad Sweet things to how he won all the War of Outlaw championships. If he's not winning, you're not gaining any ground on him anyway because he's second,
He's
third.
right there. Yep.
Like he's there every time. I mean, for Brad Sweet to go and make that move to win, it's not surprising. It's what Brad Sweet's been doing for ever now. So good on him, but it's not surprising.
We'll move on to Saturday, which they were at Tri-City Speedway, and this is where Brent Marks got that win. Looked really good, but again, Brad Sweet, +9, finished the second. Like kind of like how you're saying, it's like, yeah, you're gonna gain some points on him, but he's right there. Justin Peck with a great run. He started pole, sure he would have won a win, but still podium, solid run for him. Chris Windham was kind of a surprise up in the top 10 here. Solid run for him. Any thoughts from this Saturday race?
Lots of thoughts. Chris, you first.
It was actually one of the more fun ones I watched in a long time. Watching Brent, have to wrestle. I mean, it was kind of tricky, that track was, with where the ruts were and how those cars would bunny hop through the corners and stuff like that. I think him and that fan were the dice roll winners, so $2,500 extra for him. So that was kind of cool, even though that fan wasn't very thrilled about getting Brent in that role, but probably happier afterwards.
Yeah, if they weren't, you got some real problems. No, this was entertaining. Obviously, being a Brent fan, I had a good time watching it, but I was also terrified. Like, he's going to blow this thing when he hit the wall there.
Yeah.
Just drilled the wall, and everybody thought the tire was going down. the tire wasn't going down. It wasn't even soft. It was just broken. The car was broke. The right rear was soft and hung on through the bumps. And like you said, it was just a handful. And he didn't win that race running up there. He didn't win the race by being faster up there. He won the race on the bottom in lap traffic. Right time, right place, had the advantage and the perfect time, and had a good enough car then in clean air to take the win. So it was cool to see him finally get that, that win. And it was funny in Victory Lane, listening to that interview, like, the high limit guy was kind of like, oh, you finally got your high limit, when he's like, I've won twice other places this year. Like, I'm not on a losing streak, my guy.
Right.
Like y'all forget, like I've already won races this season. But I think everybody keeps, when you talk about high limit, everybody's kind of like waiting, and he's there. It's time. So, Kokomo tonight, wildly, we're getting ready to do Kokomo. He's never been at Kokomo until tonight, Brent Marks.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Never been there. Yeah.
Never raced Kokomo.
He didn't go
ever.
last year for the midweek race. And wing race, there's not a lot of wing races at Kokomo anymore.
And
I think the Outlaws used to go there once a year.
Right. Well, it skipped it, right? When he was running, they didn't go there. Well, he left the tour, they ran there, and he wasn't out there. So he just kind of missed it in the timing of it. So he's learning tonight for sure. Transferred out of the heat. Thanks to Larson stepping on his tiny little PP and wrecking my boy Cale Thomas. But it is what it is. But no, this was a fun race to watch. It was, man, that track had some character. I thought Justin Peck was going to be the guy. It seemed like he faded, and then he ends up finishing third. So it was one of those races where it's like you get into a rhythm and you're good, and then you get knocked around a little, get out of your rhythm. You might think your car's broken, but he comes back and finishes P3. So it was entertaining.
Yeah, good race. I think Billy Dietrich in the chat. More rain in the forecast. I'm done, gone fishing. And then he also says, Brad Sweet's not faking moves, but making moves. And that's, again, like we said, here he is, hard charger that night, finish in P2, just when you think you're going to gain some points on him. He's right there on your ass. So, but if there is a guy that can get it done, it would be Brent Marks. He's been consistent everywhere they go. They are 4 wide now, getting ready to go here at Kokomo for high limit. So we'll kind of just, like I said, keep you updated here. But let's get into this week. Besides tonight, high limit at Kokomo, they will also be up in upstate New York this Thursday at Outlaws Speedway. So that'll be going on Thursday. Friday, weather permitting, obviously. You got York County Racing Club night. For Yellow Breeches 500 race for the 410s, and then 358s at Williams Grove. The Outlaws go out to Ohio to Attica, which Attica's great, so I'll definitely be tuning into that. And then High Limit will be up at Utica Rome. And then Saturday around here, we got Port Royal. You got a 410 Super and Limited Late Model race. And then you got the Fallen Firefighters race at Lincoln, time trials for 410s and $1,500 to win 358s. World of Outlaws will be over at Sharon, which is almost PA. So that should be interesting to watch. And then Sunday, BAPS, 410s and 305s. That's just the sprint car world. There's other things going on. We got World of Outlaw late models in the area. You got Bedford making their first trip to Path Valley on Sunday. So hopefully, rain kind of stays away for the most part, and we can get some racing in this weekend. What event are you guys looking forward to most this weekend?
I just want to point out I changed my name just so we could try to not have rain this week. I'm trying everything here.
Somehow your first name, you feel responsible for the rain?
You got to change something.
Honestly,
you can't just keep doing the same old things all the time.
Chris does attract the moisture. This is what Chris does. So
you're unbelievable.
He's
My plan is hopefully Big Diamond on Friday to see Brett Perigo find the moisture and maybe Victory Lane.
Yes, I will also be there if that happens.
In the Wingless Sportsman's. I would like to go to BAPS on Sunday. We'll see. Sunday looks like the best weather-wise as far as no rain and good weather, but we shall see.
This week for me, the race I'd look forward to the most of all those would, and I'm not even going to go to it, would be the World of Outlaw late models at Path Valley. That's the one I would be looking forward to the most if I was going to go to it. Maybe of all those, but a close tie with that is the Fallen Firefighter race at Lincoln. It's a great event. They do a parking lot party really early. I think starting at noon out in the parking lot. They have
Noon.
cars out there.
12
There's
to 4.
food and just
We got bands
walking
and all
around,
that.
talking, carrying, like having a good time. That's become a very fun race for me to attend. I won't be able to make it early this year, just with stuff going on here at home. But if we get that one in, that's definitely one I'm looking forward to. And then that 410 305 race at BAPS. A lot of the 305 guys, I haven't got to see them race this year yet. A lot of friends in that division. Corey Day is broken.
Corey Day just lost a tire at the leading. There goes the tire rolling down. Sorry, Jay-Z.
Oh,
that was
literally lost a tire.
It's just rolling.
I just realized I'm
that will give Buddy Kofoid the lead over Tyler Courtney and Corey Eliason.
The tire's officially taking more laps than Corey Day.
I realize I'm off on Saturday. Maybe I go to Lincoln. We shall see.
Wow.
I forgot. I keep forgetting I'm off all these Saturdays.
So, Friday gets in Williams Grove for sure, just locally. I would love to be able to travel and go see, Utica, Rome. I looked that up. It's 5 hours. Attica is obviously in another state, 5 hours or plus. I don't even know. I'd love to be able to go do one of those with the weather, but, we're going to stick close to home. It's 358 racing. So, some of our buddies, what is this guy doing on the side-by-side?
He stopped it. Look at that. That was
knocked the tire. What is he doing?
That was a pro move.
Followed it.
He stopped it. Yeah, he stopped it, though.
That he did not try that.
He definitely tried that. That was a pro move.
The only other one I would do like Saturday, Sharon. I love that racetrack. I love watching races from there. That would be a fun race that's on the bucket list too. To get and watch a race there, that would be so fun to get. And we'll see what the timing looks like. Maybe there's a Lernerville Sharon double sometime this summer. Maybe I'll get to.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I heard something about that.
Talked about rolling out with a race team to Lernerville and Sharon.
Hell yeah.
So we'll see. But no, listen, again, I'm getting my hopes up about any racing this weekend, again, as usual. But if I get to a racetrack, they'll all be ones I'm looking forward to. So what about you, Jimbo?
If it doesn't rain, I'm going to be with Chris Friday at Big Diamond. That's pretty close for me, so I definitely want to go see Brett rip around. Saturday's interesting because High Limit was supposed to go to Fonda, and that got canceled because of unsafe track conditions with their new surface and all the rocks and everything. They had to cancel it. You got Weichert coming up next weekend, and High Limit's off, and you got a BAPS show on Sunday. I would not doubt if you see a bunch of High Limit teams come on down. It's not that far. If we get some racing in, so if I do go somewhere on Saturday, it'll be Port Royal because I have a feeling you're going to have a good car count there. Guys getting tuned up for Weichert, $75,000 to win next weekend. And then Sunday, I won't be at BAPS. I'll probably watch at home. I'll be supporting by watching on SprintCarUnlimited.tv. It's just too far for me to do on a school night. So, but that would be my plans. Would be Friday Big Diamond and then Saturday Port Royal. I think it's interesting to watch this weekend how weather pans out, and Sunday looks like by far the best day. Knock on wood. BAPS should have a great car count and should have a great fan count as well. Get your ass to the track if you can. Those would be the ones. But like, there's just a lot of good, series going to good tracks. Attica's awesome. I'd always want to get there. Obviously Williams Grove, we know that 410s and 358s always put on a great show. Great show for the Fallen Firefighters race at Lincoln too would be awesome to see. So if we can get it in, there's a lot of good racing this week. But those would be my plans.
You're kind of like making me rethink my Lincoln Port decision Saturday. Damn you.
I don't know. I mean, it's going to depend on weather, but I mean, High Limit would be off now for the rest of that weekend. And you got Weichert next week. Big race. That's probably the biggest race so far of the year in terms of money. So, $5,000 to win super late models at Port on Saturday too. That could be a big race. It could be interesting. I think you'd see quite a few cars there if they can get it in. And obviously we'll keep an eye on the weather. We don't want to get too excited because it
Yeah.
seems like every time we get excited for a race, it gets rained out.
Pretty much. Anyway, what else?
That's really it. I mean, Tyler Koenig, he was at just a quick review on Saturday. One race that did get in this past Saturday was Grandview, USAC East Coast. And I guess they had modifieds. I don't know if they got any of those in, but I know they got USAC East Coast in. And Briggs Danner with a pretty close victory at the end. And then what did he say back here?
Cam Smith, 13th to 5th in a non-wing car in the 75 non-wing. Yeah.
That's pretty wild. So awesome for him. Good for Grandview for pushing, getting it in. I was about 20 miles away from Williams Grove when they canceled. I turned around as the sun was shining, and it was looking like a beautiful Saturday afternoon. But I understand it rained so much. There's not much you can do.
It also poured.
It downpoured
right
later.
at the time.
Yeah.
We needed not to do that.
Also, Sealands Grove got rained out yesterday, of course. It downpoured Saturday night, and when I woke up for Sunday morning, I'm like, there's no shot. Everything's soaked. You guys got a lot more. I feel like you guys got a lot more rain south of me because you guys were talking about how it was like flooding. I'm like, we got rain, but not like anything crazy. And then, we paid for that Saturday night, I think, and Sunday.
Yeah, that picture that Baps posted, man, that place was just like, no way, no shot. So the fact that Williams Grove at least tried and hung in there as long as they did, we were all kind of surprised. But shout out to them for at least, it sounds like they're making every attempt to get the areas that were vital for fans and or teams. They were trying like hell to get it where it was raceable, and it just wasn't. Even if the track surface was, there's more than just the track that needs to be ready. So we've seen that before. Last year, I think the entry off of turn 3 to the infield, they actually didn't use it one weekend because it was they couldn't even get it ready. So, they tried. And I think we all were like, wow, I can't believe they hung in there that long. So, kudos to them for at least making the effort to get something in, but it was just destined not to happen.
Friday, they made the call at 11 a.m. We all knew it wasn't going to race. So I think Williams Grove has been doing a good job. They've gotten a lot of shit in the past, but I think they've done a really good job, the past almost year or so, where they've made calls at the right time. They've given the correct effort, not always get it right, but I think they've done a much better job. And I think, like you said, at least they tried on Saturday because there was a window. I was a little disappointed, but it's not something that necessarily the Outlaws or Williams Grove necessarily does, where they move it up. But it was so wet anyway in the morning that it didn't matter if you moved it up to try to beat the rain. So it was just a hard weekend to try to get anything in, and I appreciate that they at least gave the effort, even though I was already on. I figured I'm on the way there. If it cancels before, I turn around. If I get there and they cancel, at least I'm with probably some friends and do something. But they canceled when I was about 20, 25 minutes away or so.
So let's do drink it or dump it and get out of here.
Yeah, let's do it.
Chris,
drink it or dump it.
Chris
wants to go last.
He wants to. What if we take him?
You won't.
We won't. I'll go first. My drink it for this week. I'll go Brad Sweet. Just another consistent weekend for him. Making moves, not faking moves, like Billy said. I'll give him a drink it, and I'll dump it to Sealands Grove specifically because I know that Tilly is a big race for them every year, and not being able to get it in, and they're going through some tough times right now, and weather's not helping. So hopefully things clear up for them and they have a better rest of the season. Jay-Z?
Drink it. Brent getting his win, his high limit win, even though the world thinks he didn't win a race ever, apparently. So shout out Brent. He gets these interviews and teams working hard, and I know all those guys on that team and Fudd and all those guys. They do work hard and they give Brent the best possible chance to go out there and win a race every night. So I know they'll get it. They'll get it. They're smart. Heath, Fudd, and actually I apologize. His name, the guy that joined up with them this year to go out on the road. So shout out to them. And dump it tonight to the Dixon family. Dakota, he lost his life today. Battle with cancer. It's my wife's side of the family. If you've seen Prayers for Dakota out there, Dakota's Army on Facebook. It's actually pretty close to our family. So all the Dixon family and prayers with all those folks for the comfort and healing. And so, and they were tied to the racing community a little bit. They've been on some of the pages and sharing it, and Ramers have shared it, and some of those circles. So just think of their family tonight.
Absolutely. Chris?
Sure. So something a little different. I don't have a dump it, but I'm not going to call them drink it's. I'm going to call them kind of celebrations. It's been a lot of things happened past week and even before then. So I want to, shout out the racing community for one. Obviously last week got a call. A friend of mine, Eric Rutz, was in a crash, very serious. The community, sportsman division, and otherwise all kind of rallied around him. And that family, his brother Ryan, great guy. His dad Gary, great guy. He's home now. Gonna recover. So that's really great news there. It was just kind of so cool to see that last week, and also looking back a couple weeks following the story with Tyler Walker. I saw last week he's getting some help now, and the community kind of rallied around him. So it was the whole community as a whole. Shout out to them. Celebrations there, and then Tyler Walker, kind of proving that if you want to do something different, you control that, right? You no matter where you're at, you can take control of your situation and go do something about it. And it just kind of shows that the communities, we're here talking racing every week, all the time. Who wrecked who did what, but the community's bigger than that. And there's more things at play a lot of times. And it's cool to see once in a while that poke through.
Awesome. Drink it or dump it, guys. That was, yeah. So we're getting a little bit out of racing there. So I appreciate that. Yeah. So I don't know if it, Randy Kopp here says dump it for McFadden. Tough for him. Yes. Jared, I don't know.
Yes. Jared. Sorry. Good.
Yeah.
Yes. Jared helps. He's on Brent's crew this year. I apologize.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, Jared. Not that you'll ever see this, but
And a quick shout out, AJ Flick won at Tri-City?
Another Tri-City, Tri-County.
Tri-City,
yeah,
Tri whatever, out in PA. Dylan Norris was out there. Ryan Newton went out there. Couple surprises out there, but AJ Flick just dominating Western PA like he usually does. Chris Wyndham's around. Is that gonna be yellow, or are they just gonna keep it going?
I thought they
the yellow. Yeah, there's the yellow. So, yeah,
for me, Wednesday night,
not
7
Thursday.
p.m. I will not be there. Tony Sharp will have Luke Lanker for the Roland podcast doing John Eichen. Should be a fun one. Luke's a funny guy.
You might want to reward that.
Sounds like Wyndham is not very happy with Corey Day. Maybe
it doesn't seem that way either. And you're saying they're interviewing John Edkin?
Yeah,
they're not doing.
I don't know what those guys. You never know, man. Last time I saw Luke had an Amish hat. You just never know. So, looking forward to that.
Around first.
Looking forward to that on Wednesday, 7 p.m.
That was weird.
That was a mess.
Yeah, they all just started going around. So, yes, tune into the Rolling Podcast on Wednesday. And then also tune in here. We got a treat for you guys next Monday. We welcome back Austin Bishop to the show. Obviously he got his first 410 win at Selinsgrove a few weeks ago. He's been running pretty solid, having some bad luck here and there, but overall looking real fast, real sporty. So we'll get a chance to catch up with him and so we'll have Austin Bishop on next week. Do you want to stay on until the end of this high limit feature? You guys want to go?
Nah, I'm good. I'll go.
Okay. Thanks, Billy. Thanks
Billy.
Everybody for tuning in. Thanks again to Tom. Awesome guy. Yeah, we'll see you guys hopefully this weekend at the races. If not, we'll catch you guys next Monday at 8 p.m. right here. Thanks.